Trump has raised $170 million telling his followers that they need to raise money to file these lawsuits and pay the attorneys to overturn the results of the election. And a lot of these Donald Trump supporters remind me of the people who think wrestling is real. And they haven't figured out that they're being conned. They haven't when you go watch wrestling, right? Everybody's operating from the same playbook. They're all in on it. The two opposing wrestlers, the referee, the people on the side, the managers, they're all in on it. They're putting on a show. The problem is some of the people in the audience don't know that it's not real. It's a show. That's what Trump is doing. But he's getting money. It's like, so you remember when the story came out that Donald Trump was referred to people who give their lives in the military, die in battle, refer to them as losers and suckers. He's raised $170 million since the November 3rd election, raising money from his supporters to file lawsuits to overturn the result of the elections. And many of these people still haven't figured out that wrestling is not real. So I just sit back and say, okay, if you're this dumb, all right, this is what happens to you. The chickens are coming home to roost. And then we see Rudy Giuliani has COVID-19. Everybody knew that was going to happen. The chickens are coming home to roost. MSNBC reported after that there's been about 53 people in the White House and around Trump that have caught coronavirus. So the chickens are coming home to roost. When we look at these lawsuits, and we're coming up here on the break in just a second. I posted this a few days ago. If you follow me on my Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. And you want to make sure you follow me there. Turn on notifications so you know when we go live. And we've been doing a lot of broadcasting of previous shows and things like that on our Facebook fan page. We're doing, maybe 6-7 broadcasts a day. But there was a graphic that MSNBC posted, the MSNBC showed a couple of days ago, dealing with these Trump lawsuits. Trump election lawsuit, total cases filed, 44. Denied, dismissed, or withdrawn, at least 27. None have uncovered election fraud. Okay. None of these lawsuits, 44, none of them have uncovered election fraud. Now, you can say what you want to on Fox News. You can say what you want to when you outside the Four Seasons landscaping business next to the sex shop. You can say what you want to say at a press conference. But when you go on a court, you have to take something called evidence. You can't just go in there with all this nonsense that you talk about in press conferences. When they go into court, they're not alleging fraud. When they go into court, they're not alleging fraud. So what does that mean? That means the attorneys are in on it also. They're in on it. So they'll say one thing in the press conference. They say another thing when they go to court. And you still have people who haven't figured out wrestling is not real. So with dailymail.co.uk, Daily Mail reported today, Rudy Giuliani, 76, is hospitalized in Washington, D.C. with coronavirus. Experts fear Trump's lawyer could have infected hundreds of people while trying to prove election fraud. But there is no widespread election fraud. But you still got people that can't figure out wrestling is not real. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. Call-in number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. How's everybody doing? Okay, we got Anita, Willie, Okay, everybody stand by. We have some technical difficulties here. We'll be back in a couple minutes, everybody. All right, everybody stand by. We got to get this clips ready. Everybody share this broadcasting on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Is this thing broadcasting? Everybody remember we're here Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. to 12 midnight also Monday through Friday. What are we broadcasting? This is something's wrong here. Okay, everybody, we'll be back from break in just a minute. I'm trying to figure out something's not broadcasting the way it should be. How's everybody doing? Maurice, Greg, Anita, Shelly.
Your credit report and credit score for free in minutes. Call 1-800-783-9197.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. When I grow up, I want to be a glass countertop in a new home. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's best birthday present. When I grow up,
Okay, get that. Stand by, everybody. We'll be back from break in a couple minutes here.
when I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. A public service advertisement brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Okay. All right, everybody, share this broadcasting on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. It wasn't broadcasting on my personal page. I can't figure out why. I have to go look at that. I just shared it, but it's not broadcasting on my personal page. It was broadcasting on our fan page. Okay. We'll go to the SNL skit when we come back from the break. Let's go with this first one here. Oh, it's been a busy day. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation of Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 6th, 2020. And we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment, a quick question or comment, and we're not going to have time for dissertations and manifestos, but yeah, a quick question or comment. Have to give a special birthday shout out, 41st birthday shout out. She put her age out there, so I mean, I'm not putting her on blast. She put it out herself, but to my friend Marnice Chris Jackson and member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. So shout out to Marnice, happy birthday. Okay, so right before the break, we were going over the topics for tonight, and I was talking about some of these Trump supporters still can't figure out wrestling is not real. on Saturday Night Live, I watched it. I watched it live, and I knew they were going to do the Michigan House election hearing, right? I didn't know they were going to do it as well. This thing was hilarious, okay? This thing was hilarious. So Detroit News has an article about this. We posted this article. People went crazy. And when I saw this, I was like, oh my God. Sometimes they got some skits that just like terrible, but some of them are really good. So Detroit News has this article entitled After David, SNL spoofs Michigan House election hearing. So Saturday Night Live opened its episode this weekend with a take on the 4-hour Michigan House Oversight Committee hearing that featured Rudy Giuliani. And I wonder if Rudy had COVID-19 when he was there. Okay. And then Rudy sat there and passed gas also. This is the dumbest, how should I put this? Well, okay. You know how on the Dave Chappelle show, they had that skit where white people wanted to, where black people wanted to trade black people to the white people side. I'll trade you Tiger Woods for somebody. I forgot what was that skit. Okay, somebody posted what was that skit, but it was like, okay, we'll trade you Clarence Thomas for somebody else, right? So I think it's a lot of white people want to trade Rudy Giuliani, want to trade Donald Trump. It's like, no, they say you can't be on our team anymore. Okay, so when I saw this right here, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so Saturday Night Live opened this episode this weekend with a take on the 4-hour Michigan House Oversight Committee hearing that featured Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump's attorney, and multiple viral moments. And Rudy Giuliani sat there. Yeah, that was the draft. Yeah, Greg Osborne said that's the draft. Yeah, it's like the NBA draft, but it's the racial draft or something like that. Okay. So Rudy made a fool out of himself once again. Okay. Now, Saturday's spoof included parodies of Michigan lawmakers of individuals allegedly plotting to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer, which really did happen. They were planning to kidnap her. The FBI broke that up. And of Melissa Carone, Carone, Melissa Carone, who was a Dominion voting systems contractor who worked the election in Detroit. And like her actual testimony at this hearing went viral, and she sounded intoxicated. She may not have been intoxicated. Maybe that's how she sounds all the time. But Cicely Strong portrayed Melissa Carone on Saturday Night Live, and she was sitting there drinking. Okay, and there was some other people drinking alcohol as well. So you sit there, and it's like, let me put it like this: I'm glad nobody black was there. That's all I got to say. I'm glad nobody black was there. I'm glad nobody black went viral, not making these stupid ass allegations. Okay, so. And this whole thing is putting Michigan in the limelight, right? But you can't blame black people for this. Oh, we voted for Trump, but we voted legally. Okay. And I've said this before, right? There's only one candidate in the race, the November 3rd election. There's only one candidate that told their supporters to go vote twice, and that wasn't Joe Biden. And you want to talk about fraud? Donald Trump was the one who told his supporters multiple times to vote twice. Okay, so if you want to talk about fraud, that's where you should look first. Look at the guy who ran a fake university called Trump University. If you want to talk about fraud, that's where you should look first. So Kate McKinnon on Saturday Night Live, Kate McKinnon does Rudy Giuliani. She does a really good Rudy Giuliani, actually. She said, I have brought before you a dozen highly intelligent, barely intoxicated individuals who are all eyewitnesses. All right. So the parody came 3 days after a House Oversight Committee hearing that saw Rudy Giuliani present individuals who were at the TCF Center where absentee ballots were counted in Detroit. The TCF Center is a conference center in downtown Detroit. I live like 4 minutes away from the TCF Center. It used to be Cobo Hall. Okay, now it's called the TCF Center, and this is where you saw the viral video across the country. You saw these Trump supporters who claim to be poll watchers, self-proclaimed poll watchers. They want to storm inside to see what's going on. They're saying, oh, they're bringing in fake ballots and all this stuff. No, that stuff wouldn't happen. People just circulating conspiracy theory nonsense, and these stupid asses still haven't figured out wrestling is not real. And there's some of the ones donating money to Donald Trump. He's raised $170 million as of November 3rd. It's probably more now as we come on the show. And you got all these people that haven't figured out that wrestling is not real, and they're being conned. They're being had. At the same time, his attorney general is in court trying to take away health care from some of these same people and kick some of these same people off of health care and repeal the pre-existing conditions prohibition, repeal pre-existing conditions. And you have 102 million people in this country who suffer from pre-existing conditions. Some of these Trump supporters who can't figure out wrestling is not real. Some of these Trump supporters are some of those people that are going to be affected. So the parody came 3 days after a House Oversight Committee hearing that saw Giuliani present individuals who were at the TCF Center where absentee ballots were counted in Detroit. The former New York City mayor also urged Michigan lawmakers to intervene in the state's election, which President-elect Joe Biden won by 154,000 votes. So you had people complaining about out of balance ballots in Detroit. It's about 357 out of balance ballots. Some people rounded to 400, but there were about 250,000 votes that came out of Detroit. So all this once again ties into trying to overturn the votes of African Americans. They did it in Atlanta, Philadelphia, Detroit, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh. We see the same common theme: targeting cities with a high African American population and trying to overturn that vote. So the Wednesday hearing, the hearing took place here in Lansing, Michigan, state capital of Michigan, Lansing, Michigan, on Wednesday. The Wednesday hearing got attention for inaccuracies presented by witnesses and for its dramatic moments, including Melissa Carone taking issue with lawmakers' questions. Now, in the skit with on Saturday Night Live, we're gonna go to that clip here in just a second here. You saw Representative Cynthia Johnson, Democrat from Detroit, who's African American. You saw her portrayed in the skit also, and then you saw House Oversight Committee member Representative Matt Hall, Republican from Marshall, Michigan. He's the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. You saw him portrayed as well. Let's go to this clip, Jalen.
But President Trump and I are going to overturn these illegal votes, first in Michigan, then in Georgia, and then Massachusetts, and then north to Canada.
But isn't it true that all your lawsuits have been rejected because they're based on zero actual evidence?
Oh, you want evidence? Oh, okay. Well, today I have brought before you a dozen highly intelligent, barely intoxicated individuals who are all eyewitnesses. And after hearing their testimony, you're going to say, wow, Rudy was right, and he's getting smarter and more respected every day.
Hey, Jalen, do me a favor. Jalen, do me a favor on
Giuliani.
Hey, Jalen, pause clip right there. Do me a favor, start re-rack it, because people on Facebook can hear I had line 2 muted on Facebook. So just re-rack it. We're going to start from just cue it back up, and we'll start again. All right, stand by, everybody. I want y'all to hear this. This was hilarious.
Hearing of the Senate Oversight Committee to order. It is my honor, and also one of the great horrors of my life, to welcome President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's great to be in a courtroom where I'm not the defendant. This isn't a courtroom. Honestly, I'm just happy to be indoors. Now, as my associate, Miss Ellis, and I will prove today, this election was stolen from the American people with a level of trickery not seen since Houdini. That wasn't me, that was you guys. But President Trump and I are going to overturn these illegal votes, first in Michigan, then in Georgia, and then Massachusetts, and then north to Canada.
But isn't it true that all your lawsuits have been rejected because they're based on zero actual evidence?
You want evidence? Oh, okay. Well, today I have brought before you a dozen highly intelligent, barely intoxicated individuals who are all eyewitnesses. And after hearing their testimony, you're going to say, wow, Rudy was right, and he's getting smarter and more respected every day. Go talk.
Mr. Giuliani. Oh, God, it's hitting us up here now. You may call your first witness.
All right. I would like to present someone who worked directly with Dominion voting systems, Miss Melissa Carone.
Thank you. I swear to tell my whole story and nothing but my story. So help me God.
Please tell us what exactly you witnessed with the Dominion machines.
Excuse me. Maybe try losing the attitude first, just like you lost all those Trump ballots.
I don't handle ballots.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't know, would you?
Please just talk.
You're going to regret saying that, because I personally saw hundreds, if not thousands, of dead people vote.
You saw them?
Yeah, basically, yes. I remember, because I was walking out and they were walking in. And then they gave their votes to Democrats. And then you probably did something crazy with them, damn.
I don't handle ballots, and I'm a Republican.
Then you're literally useless. You have no use. Did you talk every poll? Did you talk to all the dead people?
We're state senators.
Excuse me. I have been threatened. My kids have been threatened. My kids have threatened me, and I've threatened them right back.
I'm sorry, but this testimony is full of lies.
I'm not lying. I signed it after David.
After David?
Yeah, that's correct. David signed, and then I signed right after David.
Okay, Miss Malone, we're going to ask you to leave now.
Well, you're just lucky I need another drink.
All right,
Mr. Giuliani,
pause it right there, Jalen.
Next witness.
Pause it right there, Jalen. All right. So go watch that on YouTube, SNL's YouTube channel. You can watch the full clip. Also, read the article from the Detroit News. After David, SNL spoofs Michigan House election hearing. Okay. She meant after an affidavit, DAVIT, an affidavit, which is sworn testimony, written sworn testimony, but she called it an after David. She said David signed and then I signed after David. Okay, so see, so I think there's a lot of people that want to trade her from the team. But anyway, so read the article from Detroit News. After David, SNL spoofs Michigan House election hearing. This is from December 6, 2020. So then also Detroit News, read DetroitNews.com. The Banker Lay Thompson that's on in the morning on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. He writes for the Detroit News. There was a good article from the Detroit News. Why 8 claims from Rudy Giuliani's Michigan witnesses don't add up. Why 8 claims from Rudy Giuliani's witnesses don't add up. And this is going through breaking down some of these nonsensical claims that Rudy Giuliani made in this at the Michigan hearing. Okay, and just briefly here, the first one, list of precincts with over 100% turnout is false. Is false. List of precincts with over 100% turnout is false. So let me flip over here and look at this. Okay, so Giuliani presenting individuals who said they witnessed wrongdoing and one person who said he was a data expert. The purported data expert, retired Colonel Phil Waldron, Waldron, repeated widely debunked statements about Michigan's election results, which were certified by bipartisan boards in all 83 counties. There are 83 counties in the state of Michigan, okay, including Wayne County, which is the county that Detroit is in. Repeated widely debunked statements about Michigan's election results, which were certified by bipartisan boards in all 83 counties. Quote, they say in the press, this has been debunked. Every time I read about this, they say this has been debunked, end quote. House Oversight Chairman Matt Hall, Republican from Marshall, Michigan, said in response to retired Colonel Phil Waldron's comments at one point. Quote, why do you think they're saying that? Chairman Matt Hall asked. Waldron responded, quote, I have a theory in life. It's about people and personal behavior. It's either a variable or competence or a variable of commitment, end quote. Now, some of the claims in this week's hearings, such as the allegation that election workers coached people to vote a certain way, are not possible to prove without more information. Other claims, such as poll challengers stating that they were harassed at the TCF Center, don't directly link to election fraud. 8 of the most significant claims, which if they were to be substantiated, could arguably impact the election's outcome, are often demonstrably false based on recorded facts, are contradicted by one or more officials involved in the process, or suggest a fundamental misunderstanding of how votes are counted and recorded. Suggest a fundamental misunderstanding of how votes are counted and recorded. Now, some of these lawsuits that are being thrown out, this is one of the things that judges are saying. You bring in people as witnesses who don't understand this process. So very quickly here, because we have other topics to get to, but very quickly, number one of the 8 claims debunked, list of precincts with over 100% turnout is false. So retired Colonel Waldron, Phil Waldron, who said he worked with a team that's been studying quote unquote election manipulation, told lawmakers that there were 10 Michigan precincts with 100% turnout and 6 precincts that recorded over 120% voter turnout. And this is one of the allegations that Melissa Carone was making also. The blonde-haired lady sounded like she was intoxicated, and they spoofed her on Saturday Night Live. This is one of the claims she was making. On its face, the claim is dubious because bipartisan boards of canvassers in every county examine numbers on tracked voters and tracked ballots before certifying the results. Retired Colonel Waldron appeared to be referencing data included in a report from a Texas resident named Russell Ramsland, Ramsland, Russell Ramsland. That document also lists 6 precincts with 100% turnout or more in Michigan. That document also lists 6 precincts with 120% turnout or more in Michigan, but it does not identify specific precincts. Instead, it lists cities or townships where they were supposedly located. According to the document, there was a precinct in North Muskegon, which is northern Michigan, North Muskegon, with 781% turnout, and a precinct in Muskegon, Michigan, with 205% turnout. The certified and publicly posted results in Muskegon County clearly refute, however, Waldron's claim. The certified and publicly posted results in Muskegon County clearly refute Waldron's claim. Now, on Politics Nation, on the Sunday, December 6, 2020 edition of Politics Nation, City of Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan was interviewed by Reverend Al Sharpton. And one of the things that Mike Duggan talked about, and we're going to see if we can find that clip for one of the shows this week, is that the allegations that were being made about the fraud, like the turnout in Detroit, and a lot of these claims are being made. He said, if you just a lot of the information and the accurate information from the clerk's office about turnout, that's publicly available. If you just do a little research, you can find this stuff. But people are coming up with these conspiracy theories to try to invalidate the votes coming out of Detroit, and the majority of the people voting in Detroit are African American. So they're trying to overturn the votes in Detroit. North Muskegon has 2 precincts. The highest turnout there was 82% in North Muskegon. The city of Muskegon has 14 precincts. The highest turnout in any of them was 83%. There is no chance a county board of canvassers would allow a precinct to be certified with 781% turnout, said Gene Pezzett, P-E-Z-E-T, elections coordinator for Muskegon County. All these precincts, their votes were, these precincts are in counties. There are 83 counties in Michigan. All 83 counties, a bipartisan board of canvassers certified the votes. Ain't no way in the hell they're gonna certify a precinct with 781% turnout. That's not even logical. Mistakes can and have happened that might lead to turnout rates appearing to be above 100% in unofficial results, but they are caught and corrected before the tallies are certified, she said. Quote, everything is unofficial until the canvassers complete their work, end quote. So check out we'll post a link here. This is why when they go into court, a lot of this nonsense that they're putting out in the media and doing in interviews and doing at press conferences, they're not bringing a lot of that stuff into court, making those same. Most of these lawsuits, they're not alleging fraud because they don't have evidence to prove fraud. Now they'll say whatever they want to at a press conference. Okay. All right, so check out the rest of this. We may talk about this some more on our Monday or Tuesday show. Number 7, claim of thousands of ballots counted twice is dubious. People just making stuff up. These are people who haven't figured out wrestling is not real. All right. So then also we see Representative Cynthia Johnson, who was portrayed in the Saturday Night Live skit, The African American Woman. She's been getting death threats. Detroit Free Press has an article from December 6, 2020. We posted it on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. Black Michigan lawmaker posts voicemail saying she should be lynched. Black Michigan lawmaker posts voicemails saying she should be lynched. One caller told State Representative Cynthia A. Johnson, who's an African-American female, Democrat from Detroit, that she should be, quote, swinging from a rope. That echoed another call received by State Representative Cynthia Johnson that predicted the lawmaker would be lynched, according to multiple voicemails Johnson posted on her Facebook page. The calls are some of many threats received by Democratic and Republican lawmakers in the state of Michigan, as Donald Trump and his allies, his cronies, some of them are going to need pardons. Some of them should be brought up on state charges. But as Donald Trump and his allies continue to rely on conspiracy theories, not credible evidence, to argue widespread fraud led to a stolen election. Now, supporters want lawmakers to step in and award Michigan's 16 electoral college votes to Donald Trump. These are some of the people who don't understand how the electoral college works, don't understand U.S. Constitution, all that stuff, and think wrestling is real. They want lawmakers to step in and award Michigan's 16 electoral college votes to Donald Trump. Although President-elect Joe Biden won Michigan by more than 154,000 popular votes to win the 16 electoral college votes associated with Michigan. He won Michigan by more than 154,000 votes, which is more than 10 times the margin that Trump won Michigan in 2016. Trump won Michigan in 2016 by 10,704 votes. Now, legislative leaders have already said they have no role in intervening in the election. They don't. The members of the state legislature here in Michigan, they don't have any role in intervening in the election. But you got people who haven't figured out wrestling is not real, donating money to hire lawyers to try to overturn the election. And people, all of the lawyers and all this, they're all in on it. They're all in on putting on a show like wrestling and trying to convince people that wrestling is real. Legislative leaders have already said they have no role in intervening in the election. But that did not stop Trump attorneys Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis from asking lawmakers to take some action when they appeared at a House Oversight Committee meeting this past week. Now, State Representative Cynthia A. Johnson, African-American woman, getting death threats, is the Democratic minority vice chairwoman of the committee, of the House Oversight, the House Oversight Committee, the state, Michigan State House Oversight Committee. She's the Democratic minority vice chairwoman of the committee. During the hearing, Rudy Giuliani spent hours interviewing his own witnesses who provided largely uncontested inaccuracies and misinformation about the election. Representative Cynthia A. Johnson asked only a handful of questions during the hearing. Committee Chairman Matt Hall, Republican, limited lawmakers to one question per witness. One question included asking a witness to spell her name, a request some Trump supporters saw as an attempt to dox, DOX, the witness, or publicly reveal information about someone with malicious intent. Representative Cynthia Johnson did not ask the witness, Jesse Jacob, to provide contact information. Jacob had already publicly identified herself in an affidavit, not an affidavit, but an affidavit, AFFIDAVIT, filed with a lawsuit where she also alleged electoral misconduct. Many other allegations presented during the hearing dealt with Detroit. At one point, Rudy Giuliani called Detroit one of the most corrupt cities in the country. One of the most corrupt cities in the country. You were the mayor of New York, and you call Detroit one of the most corrupt cities in the country? You work for probably the most corrupt president we've ever had. Giuliani at one point called Detroit, which is 78% African-American, one of the most corrupt cities in the country. When Representative Cynthia A. Johnson tried to make a statement refuting testimony offered, Hall determined she was out of order and turned off her microphone. Representative Cynthia Johnson, the only lawmaker who was African-American or representing Detroit on the committee at times yelled after her microphone was turned off. So this hearing garnered national attention, including Saturday Night Live lampooning the hearing to open the weekend show. Check out the rest of this article here. We're going to post this on the thread of the broadcast. Black Michigan lawmaker posts voicemails saying she should be lynched. This is about Representative Cynthia Johnson, African-American woman, Michigan state representative, and the backlash that she's getting. So I wonder if Donald Trump's going to talk about that at all. Is he going to tell them to stand back and stand by, stand down, stand by, whatever the hell he said to the Proud Boys, or the poor boys, as Joe Biden called them? All right, we're coming up here on the break. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. When we come back, we're going to talk about this story here. Mother Jones had a big article from November. Black farmers have been robbed of land. Black farmers have been robbed of land. A new bill would give them a quantum leap toward justice. This is the Justice for Black Farmers Act. The Justice for Black Farmers Act. We'll also talk about in Wilmington, Delaware. Wilmington City Council creates task force to study reparations. Then we have the story about Grandmaster Jay, leader of the NFAC, and he's been brought up on federal charges. Federal charges alleged that he pointed a rifle at authorities. Okay, we'll talk about that as well. And when I posted about this, I said, this sounds suspicious. It took them 3 months to bring charges. These are federal charges. It took them 3 months to investigate and bring charges. It seemed like they just want to get him on something, and this is what they decided to go with. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe as all the evidence comes out, maybe the charges are legitimate. I don't know, but it just sounds kind of strange. It took 3 months to bring charges. Okay. All right, listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. Share this broadcasting on social media platforms. We're also broadcasting on 910 AM Superstation WFDF on their Facebook fan page. And you can download the iHeartRadio app to your smartphone. Download the iHeartRadio app. Search for 910 AM Superstation. And you can listen to the show live there and all their shows, but definitely the African History Network show live. And search for the African History Network show on iHeartRadio, because we have our shows podcasted there, audio podcasted there as well. All right, listen to the African History Network show, 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. How's everybody doing? Stand by. All right, hey, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. Okay. How's everybody doing? Everybody stand by. All right. All right, how's everybody doing? Let's see who we have here. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. And on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Turn on notifications so you know when we go live. All right. Stand by, everybody. We'll be back from break in 2 minutes. Hey, Bella Diamonds, how you doing? All right. Okay, got Jacqueline. Okay, let me get ready for this next segment here while I'm talking to you all. I need to get ready for this next segment. All right. Hey, Leah, how you doing? Thanks for the donation, Leah. Let's see here. African-American business owners, post name your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Okay. Yeah, email us there. All right, stand by. We'll be back, I guess, 30 seconds.
An AM superstation, a division of Adele Media.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. All right. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 6, 2020, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. All right. Then also, December 5th was the birth date of one Richard Penniman, better known as Little Richard. We'll talk a little bit about Little Richard as well. I did a Facebook post about that. Also, December 6th is the birth date of Frankie Beverly and Mays. Okay, Frankie Beverly and Mays. February 6th is his birthday as well. And at the beginning of the show, we gave a shout out to my friend Marnice Chris Jackson. Today is her birthday also. She's a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. So she's one of my sisters. I talked about this story Friday. Grandmaster Jay, John Fitzgerald Johnson, leader of the NFAC Black militia group, who was involved in protests in Louisville, Kentucky, pushing to get charges brought against the officers involved in the killing of Breonna Taylor. WHAS Channel 11 in Louisville, Kentucky had a story December 3rd, 2020. NFAC leader arrested on federal charges. NFAC leader arrested on federal charges. And I'm going to that clip in just a minute, Jalen. John Fitzgerald Johnson, also known as Grandmaster Jay, is accused of aiming a rifle at members of the U.S. Secret Service and the Louisville Metro Police Department. Grandmaster Jay, the leader of a black militia group that protested in Louisville, Kentucky, has been arrested and accused of pointing a rifle at officers during a protest on September 4th, 2020. September 4th, 2020. He was arrested at his home in Westchester, Ohio, and brought to the Oldham County Jail, OLDHAM, Oldham County Jail. NFAC leader John Fitzgerald Johnson, also known as Grandmaster Jay, has been charged with assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers after he allegedly aimed an AR platform rifle, like an AR-15, an AR platform rifle at members of the U.S. Secret Service and LMPD while they were on the roof of the Jefferson County Grand Jury building while they were on the roof of the Jefferson County Grand Jury building. Now, according to a criminal complaint, officers were conducting watch over a crowd at Jefferson Square Park that night when they heard 6 to 8 heavily armed people were parked on Armory Place. When the officers went to look down on Armory Place, they were, quote, blinded by a light, which they shortly thereafter determined was a flashlight mounted to the rifle, end quote, that allegedly John Fitzgerald Johnson pointed. Photos provided in the probable cause affidavit show a person pointing a rifle toward the top of a building. The complaint also said surveillance footage showed none of the members sought cover after seeing officers on the roof, saying they did not, quote, appear to be alarmed or concerned about their safety, end quote. The FBI interviewed the officers who all identified Johnson. The FBI interviewed officers who all identified Johnson and the other men as NFAC members. Louisville Metro Police Department advisor Jesse Halliday, Halladay, Jesse Halliday, who met with John Fitzgerald Johnson shortly after the incident, also identified Johnson from surveillance footage. Let's go to this clip here from WHAS Channel 11 in Louisville, Kentucky.
He goes by Grandmaster Jay, and he led his self-proclaimed black militia group to Louisville. Tonight, John Johnson is in the Oldham County Jail. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the night team. I'm Doug Proffitt. Johnson brought the NFAC to Louisville twice at the height of the protests over Breonna Taylor's death. As the night team's Jesse Cohen reports, he's facing federal charges, accused of pointing an assault weapon at police back in September.
Arrested at his home in Ohio, NFAC leader John Johnson, known as Grandmaster Jay, is now in the Oldham County Jail on federal charges. Court documents provide these two photos from September, the day before the Derby at Jefferson Square Park. Police say it shows Johnson holding an assault rifle pointed towards law enforcement officers on the roof above him.
With rights comes responsibilities, and pretty obvious that that was an irresponsible action on his part.
Dave Muchler, the press secretary with the FOP, says federal investigations are more deliberate, so he's not surprised by the 3-month timeline.
The FOP is satisfied that the federal government is bringing those charges.
A local advocate and pastor, Tim Finley, says the timing is not just.
To use this and to make this move 3 months later speaks of the flawed, ridiculous, racist, unfair policing structure in this city. Grandmaster Jay is a national figure. So this once again makes Louisville look like the hot spot of racism.
I interviewed Johnson the day after those photos were taken, Derby Day. He had pulled his crew back from Churchill Downs after running into protesters.
Protesters aren't organized. Protesters are emotional. That is dangerous. And a bunch of innocent people could get killed.
But regardless of those feelings, Finley says these charges are shameful.
While there may have been some ruffled feathers here and there, we were all wanting justice for Breonna Taylor.
In their first protest rally in July, Johnson said they would burn down the city.
And all y'all thought we was going to show up with torches and burn the joint down. That was figurative. It meant that we would burn down something, and we burned down the wallet.
Grandmaster Jay is still in custody and has a detention and a preliminary hearing tomorrow at 2 p.m.
Okay, so that's courtesy WHAS Channel 11 in Louisville, Kentucky. And there was another outlet out of Louisville. They said, I think it was going to be December 8th. Let me see. Was it the 18th? The arraignment. Let me see if I can find this here. They have the date of the date of his arraignment. So we'll stay on top of this story because this is something doesn't sound right here in this story. And let me see if we can find that. Okay. I'll have to get the date of the arraignment. I think it's on the 18th of December. Okay. I want to go to this next story here. Mother Jones had a big article from November 19th, 2020. Black farmers have been robbed of land. A new bill would give them a quantum leap toward justice. Black farmers have been robbed of land. A new bill would give them a quantum leap toward justice. Also, if you'd like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, then also through PayPal, paypal.me / the AHN Show, paypal.me / the AHN Show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, so that helps us to one, be here 6 days a week and do the research to do be on the air 6 days a week, because as of October 12th, we're here 6 days a week instead of 1 day a week. For 4 years, we were doing Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF here in Detroit. We're still here every Sunday, but we're also here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. So that helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, et cetera, pay the bills, et cetera, pay for these services that we use to broadcast, all of that. Okay. So I've talked about in the past, and I've done some broadcasts where we dealt with the plight of African-American farmers. We talked about the lawsuit that African-American farmers had against a soybean company, alleging that they were sold fake soybeans, and how they lost, tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the soybeans did not generate the type of crop that it would normally generate, and how many of them thought it was a ploy to steal their land. And there's a history of African Americans having their land stolen, okay, and African American farmers having their land stolen. And the next story we're going to get into after this one, we'll talk about. There was a big article from Smithsonian Smithsonian Institute that dealt with how the myth of a liberal North erases a long history of white violence. How the myth of a liberal North erases a long history of white violence. Okay, and we'll talk about that, and also we'll talk briefly about Rudy Giuliani having coronavirus, which to me is the chickens coming home to roost. I mean, this is karma coming back on you. But after the Civil War, newly emancipated African American growers won a share of the agricultural landscape. They did so despite fierce backlash and the ultimately failed promises of Reconstruction. Now, Reconstruction was 1865 to 1877. We talked about the Compromise of 1877 and the November 7th, 1876 presidential election. And Rutherford B. Hayes Republican running against Samuel J. Tilden, Democrat, neither one of them having enough electoral college votes to become president, and a compromise between the Republicans and the Democrat. The Republicans agreed to remove the Union troops out of the South that were, to a certain extent, protecting the rights of newly freed African Americans. And in exchange for removing the Union troops out of the South, Democrats will let Rutherford B. Hayes become president, the Republican. This is known as the Compromise of 1877, which ended Reconstruction. So when I hear these people talk about, well, first of all, a lot of these Black Republicans, Candace Owens, and a lot of these Black Republicans, Paris Denard, and a lot of them talk about saying why African Americans should vote for Trump and why they should be Republican. They don't want to deal with the history of the compromises of 1877. 1, 2, why African Americans were pushed out of the Republican Party, and why we went over to the Democratic Party. That goes back to the Lily White movement in 1928, which was a Southern strategy. So when I hear Candace Owens talking about Southern strategy doesn't exist, she shows how ignorant she is of history. Yes, it does. You're just too stupid you're just too ignorant to understand this history. You haven't done the research. You have to go back and study the Lily White movement in 1928 when Republicans were trying to get Herbert Hoover elected as president, and they used a Southern strategy to target Southern segregationist Democrats in 5 former Confederate states. And they started ignoring the issues and concerns of African Americans and the rise of the Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s, all that. And we were being pushed out of the Republican Party. So when people think that we switched over because of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, no, that's not true. By 1960, 2/3 of African Americans had already switched over to the Democratic Party. You got to go back 40 years before that and study the Lily White movement of 1928. So by the 1910s, around 200,000 African American farmers owned an estimated 20 million acres of land, mostly in the South, based upon their count. Now, I've seen at least, well, they're looking at by the 1910s. I've seen in 1910, we owned almost 16 million acres of land. So right around there, but they're looking at the 1910s in general, not specifically the year 1910. Now that turned out to be the peak. Right around 1910 is when you had the peak of African-American land ownership in this country. Since then, due largely to lingering white supremacy and racist machinations within the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the number of African-American farmers has plunged by 98%. The remaining few African-American farmers managed to hold on to just 10% of that hard-won acreage. A new Senate bill called the Justice for Black Farmers Act, set to be released on November 30th, 2020, would mount a long-delayed federal effort to reverse the destructive forces that were unleashed upon African-American farmers over the past century. Reverse the destructive forces that were unleashed upon African-American farmers over the past century. One of the dark corners of shame in American history, end quote. And this bill is led, this bill's lead sponsor is Senator Cory Booker, Democrat of New Jersey. Okay. And he said this in a statement to Mother Jones. Now, the bill is co-sponsored with Senators Elizabeth Warren and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat of New York. And we know Elizabeth Warren, Democrat of Massachusetts. The bill would, among other things, create an equitable land access service with the USDA, including a fund that devotes $8 billion annually to buying farmland on the open market and granting it to new and existing Black farmers, with the goal of making 20,000 grants per year over 9 years, with maximum allotment of 160 acres, And that's similar to the number of acres that were allotted in the with the Black Freedmen Indian treaties of 1866. Okay, where you had the African Americans who were either Black freedmen of the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians, or former slaves or what have you, and they got land from the U.S. government through those treaties. Okay, after the Civil War ends, they get land, they get financial compensation, and full citizenship rights in those Native American nations, those tribes, until they're going to be pushed out largely in 1941, when the U.S. government conspires with those five, what white people call the 5 civilized tribes of Native Americans: the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Cherokee, and Seminole Indians. And they're going to change the guidelines of how much Native American blood you need to have to get these benefits. They say you have to have 1 quantum Native American blood, at least 1/4, 1 quantum. Okay. But that's a whole side note, but it's some background information, but there's a whole nother conversation. But, and then also this is similar to the, reminds me of the Homestead Act of 1862, where the male head of household got 160 acres of land, and you had to take care of that land for 5 years. If you took care of the land for 5 years, made the upgrades on it, the land was yours. This is the Homestead Act of 1862. During the Civil War, that gave away about somewhere right around 245, 250 million acres of land. The last land allotment for the Southern Homestead Act, the last land allotment for the Homestead Act of 1862 was given out in 1988. 1988, it was 80 acres of land in Alaska. We know Alaska used to be Russian territory, then became U.S. territory. That was the last allotment of land. They gave out land, almost 250 million acres of land from 1862 to 1988. Then there was a Southern Homestead Act of 1866 that gave away about 45 million acres of land. Now, these land giveaways were large. African Americans were largely locked out of that. Not 100%, but the majority of the land we were locked out of acquiring. All right, we're coming up here on a break. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Follow us here on our fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Also, if you'd like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. Stand by. We'll be back in just a minute, in a couple minutes. Let me see. I think about 1 minute. We'll be back. African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Okay. And then also so what we do, we create a 30-second and 60-second commercial for you, video commercial and audio commercial. You can send us a script. You can send us bullet points. We'll put that together for you. And we put that into the rebroadcast of our show. So we're rebroadcasting 6 or 7 shows a day on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. We have 1 million followers on our fan page, The African History Network. More people are starting to watch the shows, because when I created this Facebook fan page in 2010, Facebook Live didn't exist. Facebook Live didn't exist when I created this channel. My YouTube channel, I created the YouTube channel 11, 12 years ago, I think 2009. We ain't had no YouTube Live, all that stuff. So people have to turn on those notifications, but we still get a lot of people who watch the shows and watch the rebroadcast of the shows also. Okay. So email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 6, 2020. Pretty soon it'll be Christmas and New Year's Day and New Year's Eve and all of that. Okay. I want to remind you a couple of things. Our listeners at 910 AM, the Superstation, WFDF here in Detroit. The African History Network show, we're on 6 days a week now. As of October 12th, we're on 6 days a week. So for 4 years, we were on just Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're still on the Sunday slot. I'm not giving that up. Invoke said, give it up, turn it loose. I ain't listening to Invoke. That's a good time slot. I'm not giving that up. But We're also on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. Okay. So you can watch us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. We broadcast there. Shows are podcasted there. We rebroadcast these shows and lectures that I do and broadcasts I do. We rebroadcast them throughout the day also on our social media platforms. And then also watch the show live on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF on their Facebook fan page. Be sure to download the iHeartRadio app. Download the iHeartRadio app. You can listen to radio shows from 9:10 a.m. to Superstation WFDF all day long. Reverend Al Sharpton's on Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, keeping it real. Michael Baisden is on 1 a.m. in the morning. Michael Baisden. I'm on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight. Sundays, I think Bob Law's on right before my show, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bob Law, a friend of mine. I've interviewed Bob Law a couple of times also. So we have a lot of good information here at 9:10 a.m. Superstation. Okay. All right. And you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and PayPal through paypal.me/the AHN Show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All of my DVD lectures and digital downloads are at our website. We have a recommended reading list of about 70 books, because people ask me, what books should I read? We have read at our website. Click on book list. Recommended reading list of about 70 books. And you can read articles that I've written there also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll go to the phone lines in just a minute here. Okay, so you have these land allotments that were given out. And so this bill is, the lead sponsor of this bill, the Justice for Black Farmers Act, is Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey. It's co-sponsored by Senators Elizabeth Warren and Kirsten Gillibrand, both Democrats. And the bill would, among other things, create an equitable land access service within the USDA, including a fund that devotes $8 billion annually to buying farmland on the open market and granting it to new and existing Black farmers, with the goal of making 20,000 grants per year over 9 years. The maximum allotments with maximum allotments of 160 acres. Now, this bill would also fund agriculture-focused historically Black colleges and universities, agriculture-focused HBCUs, as well as nonprofits like the Northeast Farmers of Color Land Trust, the Northeast Farmers of Color Land Trust, to help identify land for the USDA, okay, U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, to purchase and, quote, help new Black farmers get up and running, provide farmer training, and provide other assistance, including support for development of farmer cooperatives, end quote. The bill's summary states, include also and provide other assistance, including support for development of farmer cooperatives. You've seen some of my presentations and some of the videos we have here that we broadcast at the African History Network that talks about our deep, rich history of cooperative economics and the cooperatives and the Colored Farmers Cooperative, founded in 1886 in Texas, and they're going to grow to have about 1.2 million members. And you have to read the book by Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhard, Collective Courage. This book here, Collective Courage, A History of African American Cooperative Economic and Thought. This deals with our history of cooperative economics and the Colored Farmers Union and the cooperatives we had dealing with agriculture, all different types of things like that, by Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhard. So part of this bill deals with providing other assistance, including support for development of farmer cooperatives. So this bill right here, this is an example of how Politics impacts every aspect of your life. And politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, and their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Politics impacts every aspect of our lives. All right. So when in 2016, when you had all these people on social media saying we don't need to vote, we just need to do economic empowerment, okay, and invest in the stock market and build 5-story buildings, I said that's good, but you also need to elect a president whose policies are going to protect the economy that your Black-owned business operates within. Then we got Donald Trump, and as of April, we see that 41% of African-American owned businesses have gone out of business because of the coronavirus economy. That's as of April. Now it's at least 50%, maybe closer to 60. Okay. So policies and laws and regulations shape the economy that your business operates within. It shapes the economic environment that your business, that your cooperative, that your farm, all that operates within. It's not separate from it. Your business is dependent upon that. Your business is dependent upon people having money to spend with your business, so you don't have to end up getting a job next to them in a cubicle or next to them on the assembly line. All of this is connected. Now, if the land transfer sounds like a generous giveaway, consider that, quote, we've done this before. We have seen massive land grants in U.S. history, end quote, Senator Cory Booker said. Okay. Indeed, the westward expansion of the United States was largely driven by land grabs, followed by handouts. Land grabs followed by handouts. You got all these conservatives against affirmative action. You got all of them, or against handouts, things like this. What was the Homestead Act of 1862? What was the Southern Homestead Act of 1866? What was the Dawes Allotment Act of 1887 that redistributed 138 million acres of land, and the majority of that was supposed to go to African Americans and Native Americans, and 2/3 of it went to white people? What were the head rights acts? What were that gave away millions of acres of land in like the 1700s? And people like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington are going to get this land, and you got additional land for every slave that you owned. Now, the 1850 Donation Land Claim Act, the 1850 Donation Land Claim Act delivered the Oregon Territory to white U.S. settlers in 320-acre chunks. Go research this. The 1850 Donation Land Claim Act delivered the Oregon Territory to white U.S. settlers in 320-acre chunks. The biggest of them was the Homestead Act. The Homestead Act, signed into law by Abraham Lincoln in 1862, which ultimately delivered about 270 million acres, of land, or about 10% of the U.S. land base, to small holders. This is what I was talking about. The Homestead Act, 1862. So when I hear people like the poster boy white privilege, Jared Kushner, who had the nerve to say that if African Americans want Donald Trump's policies to work, they have to want to be successful. I'm like, how'd you get into Harvard? Didn't your daddy make a big donation to Harvard? When I see the poster boy white privilege who owes Deutsche Bank $285 million, they don't ever want to deal with history like this. These massive land giveaways, the laws like the GI Bill of 1944 that gave low interest loans for veterans of World War II to start businesses, buy homes, and go to school, go to college or trade school. and African-American veterans who qualify for that, we were largely discriminated against being able to take full advantage of the benefits we earned and what our taxpayer dollars were paying for. And this allowed a lot of white men to buy homes in the newly formed suburbs and have these homes accumulate in value and accumulate wealth so they can have an asset to pass on to future generations. And we were largely locked out of that. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to, I think we have Rod, line 1. Hey, Rod, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from, Rod.
Hotep, brother Mike.
Hey, how you doing, brother? Hotep.
Calling from Benton Harbor. Calling from Benton Harbor, Southwest Michigan.
Oh, okay. Benton Harbor, Michigan. Okay, go ahead, Rod.
I don't think you probably ain't came to this side of the state, or have you, brother?
I think I've been to Benton Harbor, Michigan before, man. I don't remember when, brother. I've been all over, but I don't remember the last time I've been to Benton Harbor. I'm familiar with Benton Harbor, Michigan. That's where the Whirlpool factory was, or still is. Benton Harbor.
Absolutely, it's still here.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the city is only 10,000 population, but you know, it's got the world's biggest appliance company. You know, picture that. Right. Anyway, so you know, we got to get you here, brother. You definitely one of our bright, shining leaders. But so brother Mike, I know that I saw on Roland's show about 2 or 3 Mondays ago. The brother that's he's a representative for Black Voters Matter.
Okay.
In Georgia. He was talking.
Yeah, in Georgia. Go ahead.
I can't remember.
I think that's Cliff. I think was it Cliff? I think that's Latasha Brown's. I think that's her husband, Cliff. Yeah.
Yeah. He was talking about some things, and then I saw the white gentleman, Greg Pallas, on Roland's show that same day.
Mm-hmm.
And then fast forward, Greg Pallas was on CNN this past week,
right?
Talking about one of the subjects that you're talking about tonight, where you got the lawsuit. They've got a lawsuit in.
They're trying to reinstall with the right. Yeah, we talked about that earlier in the week. Yeah, trying to get those purged voters reinstated. It's almost 200,000 of them.
Yep. And then you also got, of course, you know, Stacey Abrams, but she got the biggest movement in our community in the country.
Yeah.
You know, so and them and her and Black Voters Matter, you know, throughout the country. So we know that we got a strong ground game in the Black community in Georgia that's covering it. Mm-hmm. But I saw two specials. One about a month and a half ago, and then I saw another special on both on CBS through YouTube about a couple weeks ago on the fact that the Hispanic voters might be the X factor. Might be even like with black, other than the Black community,
mm-hmm.
the Hispanic community. I understand it's that they have like a million voters. You know, Hispanics that stayed on from all the construction, all dating all the way back to the Olympics.
Right.
A lot of those Hispanics, I understand, stayed in the area, stayed in the state. And so he was saying how that they may be the X factor. Do you know of any? My question is, do you know of any? And I probably could have Googled it, but I know you're a deep brother. Do you know of any strong ground? Do they have a strong ground game? So they sounded like a lot of those voters were kind of independent class, and they didn't adhere to any party.
Does who have a strong ground game?
The Hispanic, the Democratic Hispanic. Is there a strong Democratic Hispanic ground game in the Greater Atlanta and the Georgia area too?
In Atlanta, so Greater Atlanta, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about Greater Atlanta. The Democratic, dealing with Hispanics. I'm not sure.
They're funding Latino.
Okay.
That's going after Latino.
Okay. All right. We may find out this week, but okay. All right, Rod. Keep listening. Keep listening, man. Okay. Thank you.
Keep on keeping on.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Let's go to Craig, line 2. Craig, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from.
Yes, I'm calling from the Motor City. Thank you, Detroit. Yeah, thank you, brother, for preaching. Keep on preaching.
Oh,
now,
thank you.
Listen, then the Department of Agriculture, black farmers wanted some money from them. They've been searching that. They've been screwing them out of loans and everything. They've been doing that for decades. And I think under Barack, he tried to do it, but the Republicans blocked it.
Well, they paid out 1.3 billion dollars to the black farmers under President Barack Obama. Now it wasn't. I don't think it was all that they wanted, but that did happen. That was under President Obama.
They just gave Trump just gave $28 billion to the Midwest farmers, because of that China embargo. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Thing. People that do you know it's black people out here that own property and don't vote? Can you believe that, man?
Black people out here own property. The black people out here who own property and don't vote.
Black people out here own property. I know them myself and don't vote. How you not do that, man? Even if you work from an apartment, how you not do that? Here's my thing. You know what? I work with some guys from Republicans. I'm making a quick, make it real short here.
Okay.
Listen, it's me sending package, my brother. We're not getting $1,200 because they're voting for knuckleheads in the Senate. We're not getting $500 for your child. And you vote, that's policy, like you was telling, man. That is the truth. Why we're down there in Chicago, this is a very important week. You know what's happening down there in Georgia?
Yeah. I've been talking to the two runoff races, January 5th runoff races in Georgia. I've been talking about that. And actually there were the debates today. Raphael Warnock against Senator Kelly Loeffler. And now Senator David Perdue, the Republican, he didn't show up to debate because John Ossoff beat him so badly in the previous one. John Ossoff today debated against an empty chair. Okay. because Senator David Perdue didn't show up to the debate.
And listen, and the woman that was down there debating, she kept saying leftist or radical.
Right, Senator Kelly Loeffler, Republican. Because they're trying to scare white people with this whole socialism thing, and paint Reverend Raphael Warnock, who's the pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is the church that Martin Luther King used to be a minister at. Okay. They're trying to paint him as the scary black man. Okay, Reverend Raphael Warnock.
What's so killing about it, man, is that here's the thing. There's millions of people that voted for Donald Trump that live paycheck to paycheck. Their only source of income is unemployment right now, and it runs out at the end of this month, man. And you're going to sit up there and vote down there in Georgia against your own interests. They don't talk policy. You talking policies, man. You see what I'm saying? That's why it's important to vote. But, you preaching what it is. I understand why people don't do that. I can't get it over my head, man. You got to read it too. I take Democrat. If I was a Republican, I take the Democrat package, but they offering the 600. You know the program. Mitch McConnell talk about 500 billion and not talk about. Now they raise it to 900 billion, but he don't want no unemployment.
Right.
How dare you, man?
Right.
80-year-old guy. How can you think we are in a crisis? The United States right now is not a stimulus. We are in a state of emergency, man.
Exactly, emergency.
We are in that. And black folks are suffering. White folks are suffering too. The whole country is.
Right.
And so Congress and Donald Trump, he's not doing nothing. Rudy Giuliani, he traveling around the country, breaking wind, and Donald Trump at golf courses.
Right. All right, man, we got to run. All right, Craig. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Call back tomorrow night, Craig. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me continue with this, and then I want to try to hit these other topics here quickly. And some of this we'll deal with on our Monday night show. Okay, so the 1850 Donation Land Claim Act delivered the Oregon Territory to white U.S. settlers in 320-acre chunks. Now, you got to understand that there was this whole movement of Europeans to take over the entire North American continent, This is 1850. This is 2 years after the Mexican-American War ended. The Mexican-American War was 1846 to 1848. That war was over land. And what ended the war was the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And what did the U.S. get from the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo? They got California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Nevada. All that territory was all Mexican territory. The U.S. got all that territory at the end of the Mexican-American War because the U.S. wanted to take over the Europeans wanted to take over the entire North American continent. This is, and then this is how really they get Texas, because that's over when you deal with the fort called the Alamo, and that was in Texas. That's really over land dispute also. Okay, and Texas was free territory, and in the Alamo fort they had slaves, and the U.S. had slaves and all this stuff. And Vicente Guerrero, who was the second president of Mexico, was of African slave descent. He was a former slave, and he was of African descent. And he outlawed slavery. You go study to understand some of the views that some people in America have of Mexico today. You have to look at the history between the U.S. and Mexico going back like 150 years or so. The fight over the Alamo, deal with when runaway slaves were running into Texas. Okay. There was a Southern Underground Railroad of runaway slaves running into Texas when Texas was free territory. Okay. When Texas was still part of Mexico, and slavery had been outlawed in Mexico and Mexican territories, things like that. And then you deal with the Mexican-American War. And then also you deal with in the 1930s during the Great Depression, when starting under President Herbert Hoover, and then continuing with President Franklin Roosevelt, the U.S. deported 1.8 million Mexican Americans back to Mexico. Many of them, it's estimated that about 60% of them were here in the U.S. legally. And they were deported back to Mexico because white people said that these Mexicans were taking jobs away from white people. This is during the Great Depression. This is during the 1930s. They deported about 1.8 million to Mexico. It's estimated 60% of them were here legally, but they said they're taking jobs away from white people. So to understand views that some people in the U.S. today have of Mexico, you got to understand like U.S.-Mexican relations going back like 150 years. In this whole concept of manifest destiny, which dealt with Europeans wanting to take over the entire North American continent. Now, the Justice for Black Farmers Act, much more modest proposal, would amount to an equitable balancing of the scales after decades of systematic racism within the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, that disadvantaged African-American farmers, excluded them from loans and other programs, and prevented them from holding on to their land, Senator Cory Booker said, excluding them from loans. That's what the caller Rod was talking about, excluding them from loans. This is historic. Okay. So when I hear the poster boy of white privilege, Jared Kushner, talk about African Americans need to want to be successful for Donald Trump's policies to work, no, you don't understand this history. The 19th century's great land transfers, which generated trillions of dollars in wealth for beneficiaries and their heirs, quote, effectively precluded African Americans from participating, end quote, said Thomas Mitchell, a law professor at Texas A&M and a 2020 MacArthur Fellow who participated in the bill's drafting. Meanwhile, the near complete wipeout of Black farmland ownership since the early 20th century, driven largely by racist federal and state policies, represents a transfer of wealth from Black to primarily white Americans, represents a transfer of wealth from African American to primarily white Americans, quote unquote, conservatively worth $300 billion. So when I hear the poster boy white privilege say African Americans just have to want to be successful, I have to say, get the hell out of here. Also, you need to call the Jim James, Paul and Tyrone Moving Company, because they have a sale for, they have a special promotion for people moving from Pennsylvania, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's only good for one day, January 20th, 2021. Use promo code DJT, pack your stuff, get 75% off. It's only good for people who are moving from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's only good for January 20th, 2021. You need to call 1-866-CALL-TYRONE, the Jim James, Paul and Tyrone Moving Company. All right. So this handover, this transfer of wealth, this is why history is so important. See, they want to obfuscate history and just say, oh, you just need to try harder. If you try harder, you'd be more successful. Who the hell worked harder than a slave? Who worked harder than a sharecropper? Who worked harder than domestics in white people's kitchens? That handover contributes to a persistent racial wealth gap today. The median white family is 12 times wealthier than its Black counterpart. See, racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism don't have nothing to do with not liking people or calling people racial epithets or calling people the N-word. That's bigotry. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, land, benefits, media, jobs, money, all that, healthcare, and they use that to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. That's why you have people that want to talk about try harder, but they don't want to deal with the history of white supremacy and racism. And all this is designed to preserve genetic white survival. That's what this is about. That handover, that transfer of land from African Americans to white people contributes to a persistent racial wealth gap today. The median white family, median is a statistical measure where 50% of the population is above a certain point and 50% is below that point. The median white family is 12 times wealthier than his Black counterpart. It's not because they tried harder. In addition to the land grant programs, the bill would create a farm conservation corps, which would focus on young adults from socially disadvantaged communities, with U.S. Department of Agriculture funded apprenticeships on farms with the goal of providing, quote, academic, vocational, and social skills necessary to pursue careers in farming and ranching, end quote. While the programs would be open to anyone from a disadvantaged background, African American trainees would be given priority for land grants from the Equitable Land Access Service. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. That's why this bill is so important. Read the rest of this article here, because we're out of time here on 910 AM Superstation WFDL. We're going to continue this discussion on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. So those watching us on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. We're going to keep broadcasting. Black farmers have been robbed of land. A new bill would give them a quantum leap toward justice. But guess what? You can't get this bill passed if Moscow Mitch McConnell is Senate Majority Leader. That's why the January 5th, 2021 runoff races in Georgia are so important, and why Democrats have to win those two races, because those two races determine which party controls the U.S. Senate. This ain't about loving Democrats. This is about being able to get policies beneficial to African Americans passed in the Senate and signed into law. This is about understanding the long game. This ain't about the political party. This is about policy. If you'd like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network. Help keep us on the air. $ the AHN Show through Cash App. $ the AHN Show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. And at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All of our DVD lectures are there. We're shipping out a lot of orders this coming week. We have the 8 DVD bundle pack, The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus. The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus has a lot of my lectures in there. Has a double lecture I did with Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. Has a double lecture I did with Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, who's in the Hidden Colors documentaries as well. And there's a lecture in there from Dr. John Henrik Clark, as well as Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. Then we have a 6 DVD bundle pack of mine from this deals with Black migration 1619 to 2019. Black migration 1619 to 2019. Okay, we got to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior is not over till we win. Stay tuned for Pastor Mo, and we'll be back Monday night, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And those watching on our social media platforms, keep watching. We're going to keep broadcasting. Talk to y'all later. Peace. All right, stand by, everybody. Let me disconnect from the radio station. All right, let's continue. We'll be here for a little while longer. African American business owners, email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And so if you like this type of information, you can definitely support us one way or another. That helps us keep us on air, because doing 6 days a week is a lot of work. Okay, is a lot of work. And just so I've said this before, I don't say it a lot. I don't get paid to do radio. The station don't pay me to do radio. Okay. I sell ads, and I gotta monetize this other ways. They don't pay me to do radio. So let's see here. All right, let's continue here. Okay, Black farmers have been robbed of land. I'm going to post a link here to this article. One of my Facebook friends posted this, and I read it. Now, today on Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton interviewed somebody. They were talking about this bill and the importance of this bill. I'm trying to find that clip, because this connects all of this together. This connects understanding policy, history, and conditions. Policy, history, and conditions. A history of racism and discrimination against African American farmers. A history of us having our land stolen one way or another. I have a bunch of articles dealing with this, because I've been following different things, like the plight of African American farmers, and I have articles dealing with how our land was stolen. One of the ways that our land was stolen historically, it wasn't just white domestic terrorism, us being ran off of our land by the Ku Klux Klan or the Black Legion or the Red Shirts or what have you. It wasn't just that. It was over assessing the value of the land, which then were actually over assessing. Let me phrase that. It was over assessing the tax liability of the land. This is one of the ways historically that our land was taken away from us. The tax liability of the land was over assessed, and then we couldn't pay the taxes on it, and we lose the land. There was an article, and I got a whole stack of them. I didn't have time to find it before coming on the air. It's been so busy today. There was an article I've talked about before. It's called "Black People's Land Was Stolen." I think that's the name of it. Yeah, it's from New York Times. It's by Andrew W. Carl, K-A-H-R-L, Andrew W. Carl. Dr. Andrew W. Carl is an associate professor of history and African American studies at the University of Virginia. He wrote this opinion piece for the New York Times, June 20th, 2019. June 20th, 2019. Black people's land was stolen. Any discussion of reparations must include how this happened, who did it, and the laws, policies, and practices that allowed it. Any discussion of reparations must include how this happened, who did it, and the laws, policies, and practices that allowed it. So they talked about the House Judiciary Subcommittee that met for June 19th, 2019, dealing with reparations, right? But they talked about how our land was stolen. It says, in addition to invoking 40 acres and the mule, the 40 acres African Americans never got, the reparations movement today should be talking about the approximately 11 million acres African Americans had but lost. The approximately 11 million acres of land that African Americans had but lost, in many cases through fraud, through deception, and outright theft, much of it taken in the past 50 years. Okay. Another way they would take the land is through what's called heirs property, heirs property rights. And it's a law. If you had like multiple people that own the land, say it's a family and they own the land, if you buy a portion of the land from one person that's part of the owner of the land, it gave you somehow some type of rights to the rest of the land. It's a loophole in the law, okay, that has been used historically, because a lot of us would get land, but we didn't understand wills and didn't understand the leaving the will and understand the laws, and we would end up losing the land somehow. These property holdings could have provided a foundation for Black wealth building in post-Jim Crow America. Instead, they became a source of riches for others. Rather than helping to close the racial wealth gap, Blacks' land holdings became a key force in widening the racial wealth gap. Black land taking has been as instrumental as the denial of opportunities to acquire property and creating today's racial wealth inequality, and offers a more telling indicator of the barriers to upward mobility Black people faced and continue to face in America. Let me see something here. Where is... Okay, you're going to have to read this. I'm trying to see, there was, because I have a number of different articles dealing with this. We'll probably talk about this some more later in the week. They talk about a woman named Evelina Jenkins. Evelina Jenkins, a Black South Carolina Sea Islands native, offers a case in point. She owned dozens of acres of property, including an entire island, at a time in the early 1970s when land values along the state's coastline were skyrocketing. As a result of the state's pitiful expenditures on quote unquote colored schools, Evelina Jenkins had received only minimal education and never learned to read. Decades of disfranchisement and white control of local government and the courts had taught her that whatever rights and protections it afforded did not apply to her. Even venturing inside the local government offices where people registered for licenses or paid their taxes was an invitation to be mistreated and humiliated, and was something to avoid. So Miss Evelyn Jenkins entrusted a white neighbor who had befriended her to take her annual property tax payments to town for her. But rather than submitting Miss Evelyn Jenkins' payments, he pocketed the payments, then waited for her taxes to fall delinquent, whereupon he bought the lien to her property at the county's annual tax auction. Then, after the statutory redemption window closed, he gained title to her land holdings, island and all, which he subsequently resold to a developer. In the decades since, the land Miss Evelyn Jenkins once owned has generated untold amounts of wealth. Houses on the island she once owned today sell for upward of $400,000. Miss Jenkins, though, never saw a dime of it. Rather than leave her children an ample inheritance, she died penniless, forced to live out her last days in her daughter's mobile home. Read this. This is an excerpt of this. Read this full article here. This is from New York Times. This is Dr. Andrew Carl, Kahrl. Black people's land was stolen. Black people's land was stolen. Any discussion of reparations must include how this happened, who did it, and the laws, policies, and practices that allowed it. Okay. So check this out. We're going to post the link here. This full article. All right. How y'all doing? Robert, Sandra, Bella Diamonds. How's everybody doing? So this is why, and if I remember correctly, Representative James Clyburn is pushing for someone to be Secretary of Agriculture. Yeah. New York Post, Representative James Clyburn pushing for Biden to name Black Agriculture Secretary. Clyburn is from South Carolina. South Carolina is where the Civil War started. Clyburn and many members of the Congressional Black Caucus understand why it's so important to have the right person as Secretary of Agriculture, so that you have policies in the Department of Agriculture, the USDA, that are favorable and beneficial to African-American farmers. South Carolina Representative James Clyburn, one of Joe Biden's most important political backers, is pushing the president-elect to name an African-American to head the Department of Agriculture, but not just anybody. They don't want Dr. Ben Carson or somebody like that. They don't just want any Black person to be Secretary of Agriculture. Representative James Clyburn told the New York Post on Thanksgiving Day, quote, "I'm sick and tired of people saying that rural America is only Nebraska and Iowa. I'm sick and tired of people saying that rural America is only Nebraska and Iowa," referring to two farm states overwhelmingly populated by white residents. Quote, "We, our forebears, were brought here to develop rural America, the plantations," Representative James Clyburn said. He's the highest ranking African-American person in the House, the House of Representatives leadership. So he's pushing. Representative Clyburn is advocating for Ohio Representative Marsha Fudge to be nominated as Agricultural Secretary. Representative Clyburn noted it was rural Blacks, rural African Americans in the South, not just in urban areas that delivered the gusher of votes or the tidal wave of votes that propelled Joe Biden to win Democratic nomination over Bernie Sanders. Clyburn's endorsement of Biden before the South Carolina primary is credited with turning around Biden's struggling campaign. Okay, so Biden easily carried South Carolina also. Clyburn said, rural America is South Carolina, it's Mississippi, it's Alabama, it's Georgia. Okay. And these are southern states with a high number of African-American rural residents, a high number of rural African-American residents. 25% of African-Americans live in rural America. He said it was Black rural voters who helped Biden carry Georgia in the general election. Okay. Check out to read the rest of this article here from New York Post. And there are others that reported on this. Representative James Clyburn pushing for Biden to name Black Agriculture Secretary. All right, let's continue. So we got that. This story, this other story, we talked about this some earlier in the week. We talked about this on a Friday show, Friday, December 4th show. We're going to have that re-airing. You go back and watch that. How the myth of a liberal North erases a long history of white violence. How a myth of a liberal North erases a long history of white violence. Anti-Black racism has terrorized African Americans throughout the nation's history, regardless of where in the country they lived. Anti-Black racism has terrorized African Americans throughout the nation's history, regardless of where in the country they lived. Okay. And so we talked about this on Friday, December 4th show. We'll talk about this some more. We'll talk about this some more probably Monday or Tuesday because we're running out of time here. But this is from SmithsonianMag.com, the official website of the Smithsonian Institute. Yeah, we'll deal with that later in the week. Wilmington, Delaware. Wilmington City Council creates task force to study reparations. We'll talk about this some more later in the week also. But Wilmington City Council voted to create a task force to look into how possible future reparations for descendants of slaves could affect the city. How possible future reparations for descendants of slaves could affect the city. The City Council Task Force to study and develop reparations proposals. The City Council Task Force to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans came into the mind of outgoing City Council President Hanifa Shabazz, okay, sound like a sister, who said she looked at how similar task force were created in Chicago, Providence, Rhode Island, and in Raleigh and Asheville, North Carolina, okay, as well as work done on the federal level by Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and Senator Cory Booker. Now, Councilman Chris Johnson, who introduced the resolution on Shabazz's behalf, said that it is a major concern for the Black community that holds about 2% of the wealth. Quote, times are changing. I believe reparations is something that for descendants of Africans is not something that is tucked away in the shadow. It is something that is public and it is due. What reparations look like will come from the federal government and states, but it is big. What reparations look like will come from the federal government, come from the federal governments and states, but it is big, end quote. Now, Councilman Johnson said his hope for the task force is that it's more than just handing out money. It's more than just handing out money. quote, what we're talking about is community services, investment in housing, loan forgiveness. There's a whole host of different ideas that can level the playing field because of over 200 years of oppression. For all Wilmingtonians, a city that is 70% African American, this is very important, end quote. Okay, so check out the rest of this article. We'll talk about this some more this week. This is from WDEL.com. WDEL.com. They're in Wilmington, Delaware. Wilmington City Council creates task force to study reparations. This is from December 4th, 2020. And lastly here, we have the story Rudy Giuliani testing positive for COVID-19. Also, some of y'all probably heard that. Now, we posted this other article, and we'll talk about this on Monday's show. Donald Trump called Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia to try to pressure Brian Kemp to somehow overturn the election results in Georgia. Now, tampering with the results of an election is illegal. Washington Post has a big article on this. We'll talk about this Monday. We posted the article on our fan page, the African History Network. Trump calls Georgia governor to pressure him to help overturning Biden's win in the state. This is from December 5th, 2020. Hours before he was scheduled to hold a rally in Georgia on Saturday on behalf of the state's two GOP senators, Senator Kelly Loeffler, Republican, and Senator David Perdue, Republican, that January 5th, 2021 runoff election, which is extremely important, Donald Trump pressed Republican Governor Brian Kemp to call a special session of the state legislature for lawmakers to override the results and appoint electors for the Electoral College, appoint electors who would back the president at the Electoral College that votes December 14, 2020. This is according to two people familiar with the conversation who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe the private call. Donald Trump also asked the governor to demand an audit of signatures on mail ballots or mail-in ballots, something Governor Brian Kemp has previously noted he has no power to do. Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia, who was Secretary of State of Georgia and who stole the gubernatorial election from Stacey Abrams in 2018 when he ran against her, Governor Brian Kemp declined the president's entreaty according to the people. The governor, Brian Kemp, later referred to his conversation with Donald Trump in a midday tweet, noting that he told the president that he had already publicly advocated for a signature audit. Read the rest of this article here. Donald Trump is trying to pressure the governor of Georgia to get him to overturn the election results of Georgia. In tampering with the results of an election is illegal. And Joe Biden won Georgia by a little more than 12,000 votes. And it's basically African Americans who put him over the top. So now Trump, who was talking about what he was going to do for black people and his fool's gold plan, what he called the platinum plan, all this stuff. Now he's trying to overturn the will of the people in Georgia, including African Americans who voted for Joe Biden. Lastly, the chickens are coming home to roost. Rudy Giuliani, according to Donald Trump, has coronavirus. And which outlet was that? I think there was the Who is this? Yeah, Daily Mail, dailymail.co.uk. They're reporting that Rudy Giuliani's in the hospital. But Donald Trump announced Sunday that former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani has tested positive for coronavirus. And Giuliani has led Trump's efforts to overturn the November 3rd, 2020 election. Donald Trump tweeted, "Get better soon, Rudy. We will carry on. Get better soon, Rudy. We will carry on." And now Giuliani, Trump's personal attorney, has crisscrossed the country in recent days, pushing Trump's unverified claims of voter fraud. They're just lies. He most recently appeared without a mask during a meeting with Georgia lawmakers Thursday. Giuliani did not immediately respond to a request for comment. It was not clear where Giuliani was Sunday afternoon or whether he was suffering from any symptoms. Earlier Sunday, he was interviewed on Fox News. At age 76, Rudy Giuliani is considered to be at high risk for complications stemming from the virus. Trump later retweeted a call for Americans to pray for Giuliani. Okay. Now, we also know he appeared in Michigan at the hearing in Lansing, Michigan. The Michigan State House hearing. He appeared there without a mask also, at least for most of the time. The Daily Mail has this article. Rudy Giuliani's COVID diagnosis sparks Arizona legislature shutdown after president's lawyer, 76, met with 15 GOP politicians and hospitalized amid fears he could have infected dozens. Giuliani was on Sunday at Georgetown University Medical Center in Washington, the New York Times reports. Who urged him. Let me scroll down here. Senate Chief of Staff Wendy Baldo, B-A-L-D-O, wrote that the Senate would be closed all week due to COVID-19 concerns and out of an abundance of caution. Okay, this is the state Senate in Arizona. The House in Arizona is going to follow suit. Jenna Ellis, Rudy Giuliani's colleague, said that Giuliani tested negative twice immediately preceding his trip to Arizona, Michigan, and Georgia. He tested negative immediately preceding his trip to Arizona, Michigan, and Georgia. She added, quote, "No legislators in any state or members of the press are on the contact tracing list under current CDC guidelines." She said that Arizona was using Giuliani's diagnosis as an excuse and described it as absolutely unnecessary. Now, Giuliani on Sunday night tweeted that he was recovering well at a hospital. Let's see. He had spent the days leading up to his diagnosis hugging supporters hours across the nation, leading to fears that he could have infected hundreds of people. Jenna Ellis said that Rudy Giuliani tested negative twice before the November 30th trip to Arizona, but it remains unclear when Giuliani officially tested positive or when he was exposed. The average incubation period ranges from 2 to 14 days, the CDC says. Okay, basically how long it takes for you to, after exposure, to develop symptoms. Okay, check out the rest of this article here from the Daily Mail. Rudy Giuliani's COVID diagnosis sparks Arizona legislature shutdown after president's lawyer 76 met with 15 GOP politicians. Okay. And he is hospitalized amid fears that he could have infected dozens. Okay. Oh, well. All right, look, hey everybody, we have to get out of here. I gotta be back Monday night, 11 p.m. So remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. You can donate to the African History Network, cash $ the AHN Show through Cash App, PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Also, follow us on our fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live. We go live throughout the day. Follow us on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Turn on live notifications there. Click on subscribe, that bell, so you know when we go live also, okay? And once again, we're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Follow us on Instagram, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on Instagram also, okay? All right. We have to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace.